Hi everybody, my name is Matt Booth, and I first met Lucas in September of 1996 through our beloved fraternity, Sigma Phi Epsilon. Lucas was the first San Diego native I met once I moved down from Orange County to SDSU, and was always an infinite source for anything that ever happened or was happening in San Diego. When we met each other, I remember our personalities immediately jiving with each other. We were both fairly brash and cocky, and these traits fit perfectly with our larger group of fine, law-abiding friends that are here today. As our friendship grew, Lucas and I developed a wonderful codependency of each other, constantly strategizing and scheming about school and girls and everything in between. One of us was always coaxing the other into leveling up into whatever the task at hand was. Some of these pursuits were healthier than others, but they were all usually a ton of fun. We were a classic balance of opposites, and we fed off each other and into each other. And combined with our insatiable fear of missing out, we always stayed in touch. Rarely did a month go by in 24 years that we didn't get on the phone to update each other and see what was happening with each other's lives. Several years went by and we transitioned into our 20s and beyond. During this time, I turned Lucas on to hunting birds. This was something that I grew up with and he had a mild interest in, and it gave us something new to sink our teeth into together. After a couple of outings, Lucas was hooked and I was stoked to have someone new to show the ropes to. Little did we know that this mild outdoor pastime would blossom into a full-blown addiction that brought out the best of our OCD personalities. Pretty early in our new hunting partnership, about 16 years ago, Lucas asked me what I knew about hunting turkeys, which was nothing. Someone had mentioned to him that there were turkeys throughout the San Diego backcountry and we should check it out. And so we did, and we saw a ton of them. Along the side of the road, in people's front yards, everywhere. So we figured it would be pretty easy, and so we purchased some decoys and some face masks and headed out. The first morning we went out, Lucas dragged us to some spot in the middle of nowhere at 4 o'clock in the morning, which would become typical of our outings. We wandered out into the dark and sat down on either side of a big bush. Sometime later, around sunrise, I heard Lucas snoring, as he was a man who always loved his sleep. Simultaneously, a bird appeared, and I shot it. Lucas, who was just rudely awoken by a 12-gauge shotgun going off over his head, was equal parts shocked, happy, and a little envious at what had just transpired, since he was the one that put the whole thing together. Unbeknownst to us, this first turkey kill kicked off what would become the greatest bond we shared. Lucas was always an intellectual switchboard of sorts. He knew a lot about a lot, and what he didn't know about, he was going to figure out quick. Trails, creeks, weather patterns, seasons, property boundaries, habitats, no information escaped him. This, in turn, forced me to level up, and if I was going to keep up with Lucas. Together, we suffered up and down every mountain and descended down into every thorny canyon we could find. No area, prohibited or otherwise, was off limits to us in this pursuit. Sometimes we just had to be a little sneakier than others. We went on to share hundreds of campfires and sunrises together over the years, every one better than the last. The final time we went turkey hunting together was this past spring. Opening day was a perfect bluebird morning, and we got on some birds we scouted out the day before. As luck would have it, these birds came into our decoys on a string. I whispered a 3 count, and we pulled the trigger at the same time. When the smoke cleared, there were 2 birds on the ground and tears in our eyes. It was our first double, and it was hands down the best turkey hunt we ever shared together, and will always be my favorite memory of us. Intellectual, loyal, curious, and intense, Lucas will always be a giant in my heart, and I will miss him dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everybody. My name is Philip Lancashire. I've had the pleasure of knowing Lucas for about 24 years now. We've had an amazing relationship and friendship. As a matter of fact, I just want to take a side note and say it was actually Lucas who brought Matt and myself back together again. And it meant that much to him for us to continue our relationship, and for that I'm forever grateful. I want to thank all of you guys for coming and showing Lucas so much support and love. He was an amazing man. To be out of the body is to be with the Lord, and I truly believe that for such an amazing man like Lucas. I believe this to be true for such a beautiful soul. Lucas is a father, a husband, a son, a brother, and a friend. I've known Lucas since 18, and I've had the pleasure to watch him fill all of those roles. Every single one of them. I've been so proud of him. I also wanted to share some attributes of Lucas that I was so fortunate to have and watch and learn from him. L, loving. Lucas showed everyone love. Everyone that he cared for and came in contact, he always showed them how much he cared for them. There were so many times where he was actually my rock, where I would lean on him. He loved and accepted me for who I was. He never judged. He never judged anybody. He loved everybody unconditional. And he taught me that. He brought me into his family and showed me more unconditional love. And now I have an amazing relationship that's lasted just as long with his mom, Jane, and sister, Asia, so thank you. Thank you, Lucas, for that. I'm so blessed. You, for understanding. Lucas was very aware, and he knew people, he knew human behavior, made him very understanding and sympathetic to everybody around him. Even when there was mistakes made, he would work through them, understanding that we're only human, and he cared so much about people that he was willing to work through it. He always looked through other people's eyes so you can maintain such healthy relationships. He was always understanding and in tune with everybody. Just to show you a quick story about how understanding he was for me. We went on a fishing trip. We're at Lake Cuyamaca. It was him and I. Rented a boat. We were out there fishing. I had the worst day. I didn't catch one fish. He, on the other hand, shined so bright and caught, I think we're about 7 fish right now. He was ready to max out. He even started telling me, look, if we keep bringing these things on, you're gonna have to say these are yours, okay? Because I'm not stopping. So we brought on his final fish for the day for his name. And on the side of the boat, he had a little net that he would put his fish in there because he didn't want to see him die on the boat. So he'd let him swim around in the water until we were done, and he would bring them all up at the end of the day. And when he caught it, that final fish, he brought it in, he put it in that net. He was so happy and proud of himself, and I was too. So I get back and I get on the engine on the boat, and I start slowly going away to the next spot. And I see him on the side of the boat, holding onto the side, doing one of these.
Oh, shit.
And he looks over at me and goes, "Did you forget to tie the fish to the boat?" And there went all 8 fish in the net. I said, "Lucas, looks like you had a day like I did." He was so livid. I will tell you right now. I will not take that away from him. But he loved me so much, and he understood that I would never mean to do that. I know how important it was. And he forgave me, and he understood. Because he's that human being. C, compassionate. Lucas is such a loving, compassionate person to all. He showed his love in so many different ways. Not only to his family and his friends, but to even people he didn't even know. People he would just run into on the side of the street, in the passing. A couple other, Steve and myself and Gene and Lucas went fishing at, Santee Lakes.
Yeah.
And we're all out there on the side, on the grass, hanging out. Such an amazing day. The first thing he did when we showed up is made sure we all were set and rigged and ready to go. It's all he cared about, was making sure that we were taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, after we were sitting there waiting for the fish to bite, I turned and I didn't see Lucas with us anymore. I wondered where he went. And Lucas had made his way over to a little boy and his mom, a very young mom. She didn't know how to help her son set up fishing. And he went over there, introduced himself, and showed that 5-year-old boy how to rig, how to use a pole, how to cast, what all the different functions were for different kinds of fish, way over his head. But I got to witness that. And I knew he made an impact in that little boy's life.
Yeah, he did.
And I know when that mom tells the story of her son's first fishing experience, that our Lucas is going to be the one that she's talking about. And we might not ever hear those stories, but there's thousands of them. There's just thousands of them. And I know he impacted us all here in this room. But he impacted us out of the state, out of the country, all around the world, even when living in Europe. He impacted so many lives, and I'm so grateful to be his friend. The A for assertive. Lucas was a true leader. He loved taking charge, and such an amazing friend. He would always step up to the challenge, always take control, and show everybody he can handle it. He took amazing pride in what he did and the work that he did do. When we were 19, he was given the responsibility to run an entire sandwich shop called Easy J's. He would open the store, he would close the store, he would make sure all the food, all the sandwiches, everything was in order. He would even have his friends from the fraternity come and he would actually give us free sandwiches. Probably the reason why he got let go. But he cared so much about everybody that he would do this, knowing that there's a chance that he could potentially lose his job. He actually hooked us all up with jobs. I was the delivery driver for the sandwiches. But he cared that much to know that he knew he was making an impact in lives and made the effort to get me that job and knew that I needed it that bad. And he loved me like that. And he loved everybody like that. The S, spiritual and strong. Lucas was so in tune spiritually. Ever since we met, we had the most amazing talks. In depth, under the stars. We're driving around, didn't matter where. He was so pure. We'd talk about God. We'd talk about our soul, the universe, reincarnation, and how we had to be the best we could be so we could meet again. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for showing me and having those talks with me to make me such a great person. To hopefully I will get to see you again. For such a little guy, he has such big shoes to fill. He's so amazing. Anybody could see he just set the bar for so many people. And for that, I'm so grateful to say he's my friend, call him my friend. I know he's been taken from us, but the one thing that can never be taken are our memories of him. And it's all up to us to keep him alive, talk about his memories, talk about the stories, and let's keep him close and dear to our hearts. Thank you.
That's beautiful, you guys. Good afternoon. I want to thank all of you for being here today to celebrate the life of Lucas Livigni. I also want to thank the family for allowing me some time to speak about Lucas and share some of the memories. My name is Steve Lips, and I've been good friends with Lucas since the fall of 1996. We first met at San Diego State University while rushing the same fraternity. It is from there our friendship began when he was only 17 and I was 21. We had a lot more hair back then. One of the many words I like to describe my feelings towards Lucas is pride. I am so proud Lucas was my good friend and fraternity brother. Shortly after we met, Lucas invited me to a baseball game to watch him play. I remember when Lucas first got up to bat thinking, okay, he's not that tall or big for a baseball player, so I was hopeful he could get a hit. But what Lucas may have lacked in stature, he certainly made up for in heart. After taking a few pitches, Lucas crushed a home run. As Lucas was running around the bases, I was so impressed, so proud, and cheered so loud. That was my friend. I will never forget him hitting that home run. Many years ago, Lucas invited me to attend his graduation ceremony from nursing school. So of course I wanted to be there to support my friend. When the valedictorian first in the class was announced, it was Lucas Livigni. I remember sitting there thinking to myself, wait, did I hear that correctly? Lucas is first in his class? That explains why he wasn't around much for a couple of years, and he was always too busy studying. As Lucas was going up to receive his award, I was so impressed, so proud, and cheered so loud. That was my friend. Several years ago, I was fortunate enough to attend Lucas and Kristen's wedding. As they stood there under the huppah, I was so impressed. Lucas met the love of his life, so proud of the man he is, and cheered so loud for the two of them once they were married. Most recently, when Myra came into this world, I was so impressed and so proud of the father Lucas was. He loved his family so much, which is easy to see from all the family pictures. As I look back on it, Lucas didn't do any of these to impress or make me proud of him. He did all of this and so much more because that's who he was. As I am sure all of you know, Lucas had quite the sense of humor. He could tell stories, crack jokes, and make you laugh. Growing up, and even to this day, one way all of the guys from the fraternity would communicate with each other was by telling stories, making jokes about one another, and giving each other a hard time. Of course, it's all in good fun and so funny. Lucas liked to remind me, you know, the only reason you received a pledge pin was we needed a golfer to help us win the sports banner. I found this out years after the fact and thought all this time it was because of my good looks and charming personality. I did my part and our fraternity won the sports banner that year. Lucas also liked to call you out and let you know his feelings sometimes. Several months ago, there was a party for Lucas. I have this picture from that night of Lucas, me, and some of the other guys from our fraternity. I keep this picture on my desk as a reminder of the friendship and brotherhood we share. As my girlfriend at the time was about to take the picture, Lucas starts yelling out, "Where's the ring, Steve? Steve, where's the ring?" She recently got the ring, and my fiance and I love to reminisce how Lucas called me out and let everyone know how he felt. Speaking of which, most of you know how much Lucas could reminisce and tell stories. Once he got started, you were most likely in for an earful. I am sure Kristen has heard so many of the same stories, even she could tell some of them. When I think of all the words to describe my feelings towards Lucas, thankful is at the top of the list. I am so thankful Lucas was my good friend, really more like a brother, and how he included me in his life. from that first baseball game to his mother's house for Thanksgiving dinners. My fiance and I celebrated our first Thanksgiving together with Lucas, his family, and their friends. The two of us will never forget that evening. Thankful to have been invited and attend his nursing school graduation, his wedding, his mother's 70th birthday party, and Myers' birthday parties. Thankful for the double dates for dinner, the concert, and the comedy store. Thankful to have gone to San Diego Chargers and Padres games with him. In closing, before Lucas passed away, I was able to visit with him for a few minutes. I remember sitting there with him, so impressed and so proud of him for how long and hard he fought. He asked me to teach Meyer how to play golf, which I hope to someday. I gave Lucas a hug and thanked him for being such a great friend and including me in his family. He replied, "You are family." It will always hurt the place in our lives Lucas left us here on earth, but the hurt is okay because it means he meant so much to all of us. We will miss the future memories that will be made without Lucas here on earth, but that is okay because he will always be there in spirit. Maybe someday in the future, Meyer will receive a pledge pin, not for his golf skills, but for his good looks and charming personality, just like his father. We love you, Lucas. Next, Danielle Churchill and Mike Hall will speak.
Yeah. Give me one of those shots.